Thanks for listening to Del Aware. Here's Peter MacArthur.
It's 9:35, and it is Thursday, September 3rd. I'm Peter MacArthur, and we're talking with Chris Burkhard, Placers Staffing, like we do often during this time. It's in Newark, by the way, about the job scene and situation. Chris, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Happy Thursday to you.
Yep, and if nothing else, we're timely because we get the unemployment numbers that come out these Thursdays about 8:35 in the morning. So they're out. You've had a look at them. What do you think of these latest numbers, Chris?
So, Pete, a couple of thoughts. Yesterday, a private report by ADP came out, and it talks about the new jobs that were created in the month. And what was interesting about it is it was double the number of jobs that were actually created in July, but it did not meet forecasts. So it's a really tough thing to see because jobs are creeping back, just albeit very slowly. And our challenge is that we've started from such high numbers of unemployed. It's really hard to see every little bit of progress because it's really barely denting the need, if you will. I think today's announcement reflects just how painfully slow improvements are in getting folks back to work. And I guess it makes this type of time and our need to help the unemployed it's just more important than ever. And if you're unemployed, progress in these really big numbers really mean nothing to you. It's hard to celebrate 5% less folks going back on unemployment if you're one of those folks. Now, on the good side, we live in a global economy. Things are improving in Europe's economy. Things are improving in Asia's economy. I think over time, that does mean that jobs will come back. Our biggest challenge here in the U.S. and locally is the service sector. It's very difficult to run those businesses that are serving less customers and then keep all that staff that they might have had, pre-pandemic.
I think maybe, too, Chris, what we see is when we talk about analyst expectations, I don't know what your read on this is. With the set of circumstances we've been dealt here, setting those metrics has got to be tough. I mean, what do they even have to work with in terms of a foundation when they're saying analyst expectations?
Well, I think sometimes economists are like the weather folks. You set a target and it doesn't happen, so you reset another target, right?
Yes.
But there has been a lot of discussion about the formulas that they're using, and actually there were some introductions of some new ways of measuring things. But I think one interesting thing that has not really been talked about is these numbers of unemployed do reflect a brand new category of unemployed. This is the first time that the freelance worker, the contractor, was able to benefit, which I think is a really important innovation, if you will, because it's such an important part of the job economy. There are strong recommendations that between 30 and 50% of all jobs are going to be in that category.
Yeah.
And if you know that you can get unemployment if you're impacted, I think it will help people ease into a big part of where jobs are being created.
Do you think that would hold after the pandemic, though, that the gig economy would get unemployment benefits, Chris?
I think it will.
Yeah?
I really do. I think it's such a significant category. Now, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of folks that consider temporary work or some sort of alternative work arrangement because their end goal is that traditional job. And I think that's 30 to 40% of all workers that take a temp job are interested ultimately in converting, to their home. Plenty of folks that are able to leverage their skills or have the lifestyle they want with flexibility to pursue that. Mm-hmm. And it's the issues with doing it long term have always been like benefits like health care. Certainly that would be a pretty good factor in not wanting to do that for long. But with that changing, I think it's acknowledging how work gets done and how jobs are created.
Sure. It sounds inevitable, so I would have to agree with you on that. You think about the people that have been out of work since this started, and you're talking in some cases, Chris, third week of February or whatever it is, and here we are in September, and my gosh, what if you've not really seen results? I mean, if that's me, where am I focusing my efforts next?
I think one significant factor is, it pains me to say this, but if you were furloughed in the late winter or spring, I think it's probably time to face the reality that your job may not come back. Now, that's a general statement, and people's specific situations need to be understood and researched. But there's a pretty strong indication that you shouldn't sit and wait. And we've talked a little bit on your program that folks have great skills. What skills are transferable to new companies or new industries? And I certainly think it is an opportunity at this point for people to think about that concept of retraining. There are many programs of online courses, and if folks need help navigating that, there are so many resources available that don't take any money out of pocket to help someone learn a skill.
We think about some of these things that have spawned in terms of the resources you referenced, Chris, during the pandemic. And hopefully some of these will carry on as well, like so many things that have been pivots during the pandemic will. In other words, making it easier for people who are out of work to find work through the kind of resources that you mentioned.
Yeah, and if you will allow, I think one of the greatest things that we've tried to teach at Placers to the workforce is I think the job market is a lot like an old Western movie. And I'm not sure everybody wants to watch an old Western movie or even knows who Clint Eastwood is. But when Clint Eastwood rode into town, what he saw were people who were responsible for their own careers, you know, the saloon owner and the undertaker and all those funny things. But we think it's really important for the workforce to understand the shift that's taking place. And I think they know it. But we really are responsible for navigating our own careers today and the skills that are required to do that. Companies no longer do it for you. And we still do spend quite a bit of time needing to help workers understand that they own their career navigation.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's jump to the other side of the fence for a minute here, to the employers. If you're an employer and your workplace is, say, like ours is here at WDEL, where we have a 20th of the people we usually do in the building right now. So you're talking about distance, less likely to be in person for a lot of folks. How can a company, let's say, enrich its culture, Chris, and make sure that it's on display for prospective candidates under circumstances like these?
Well, I think you're knowing that the candidate seems to be all virtual and online. It's made for a very different approach. So I think when people are thinking about their search, they've got to use the internet to look at that company's culture. And a couple of ways that we recommend that they do it is there's a site called Glassdoor. LinkedIn has a lot of information on existing businesses, and they can give you an insight on current and past employees. And frankly, they'll even rate the CEO of the business in some ways. So that's a really good way to gather some insights. But as I've talked about, there's nothing better than reaching out to people that you know at that company or by building relationships to ask them about the culture. And then finally, there are all kinds of publications and organizations like A Great Place to Work or Inc. magazine, and they look at growth and they look at the company culture, and they actually, give awards for who has the best place to work. And I think that's done on a local and regional level. So it's not hard to find out those people that are constantly doing culture work. They may not be where they want to be ultimately, but it's those that are trying to nurture their culture are places that you may want to explore. One quick point, the most important question is, what do you need and want in a culture? That's the bigger gap that I see every day, Peter. If you want a fast-paced job where you're busy all the time, but you end up in a job where there's no people interactions and you're in a quiet lab, that's probably not for you. And sometimes the workforce doesn't think about that.
Yeah, great points. Chris Burkhard, Placers Staffing. Chris, for those listening that would like to find out more about you and your operation, where can they turn?
www.myplacers.com. We continue to have a program called Placers Act of Kindness. If you're unemployed or looking to change jobs and you need help on anything, job search skills, resume, cover letters, referrals, all for free. We just want to help people get back on their feet.
Yep, good deal. Well, Chris, listen, have a great Labor Day weekend. Appreciate your help as always, and we will speak soon.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You bet. Chris Burkhard, Placers Staffing in Newark.